Hello YouTube, Chrisiosity here. Germaine Greer is who we're going to talk about today. For those who don't know, she is a second-wave feminist of some renown. She wrote a book in 1970 called The Female Eunuch that is considered one of the more important feminist books of that time, and maybe rightly so. It wasn't a favorite of mine, and it's been years since I read it. And since I don't intend to go hunt it down again and read it all over again, don't remember it that well, so let's just leave it at it was considered important. There's a narrative in some corners of the internet that first and second wave feminists were all nice, reasonable women asking for nice, reasonable things, and everybody liked them. And then the mean old third wave came along and ruined everything. This is an amusing story. The reality is that second wave feminists were a boisterous and unapologetic group, generally speaking. Anyone who thinks Anita Sarkeesian is an extremist really is clueless and also kind of fragile. Certainly, Greer was much more extreme. She felt, and as far as I know continues to feel, that men truly hate women and teach them to hate themselves and their sexuality, that nuclear families are inherently oppressive to women and children, that monogamy is akin to domestic servitude, if not slavery. She did not seek equality with men, so much as liberation from them. I mean, it's hard to encapsulate her ideas so briefly and do it correctly, but that's kind of the gist. And I worry, as I go along, that it's going to sound like I'm trying to make apologies for her, when that is in fact the last thing I'm trying to do. What I am trying to do is explain how she got where she is. The truth is that being a feminist in the 60s and 70s was not easy or supported. You really were going off into new territory on your own. And that meant that at least some of the people who were able to do this and get to the levels she did and stay there were the kind of loud, abrasive people that didn't care if others despised them. In fact, it might help if you were the sort of controversy-courting person who enjoyed that sort of thing. Say, a woman who had a PhD but would pepper her books with slurs, or insist on staying in the Chelsea hotel rather than a more proper one on her book tour because, as she said in interviews, the proper ones would never let her fuck her friends. Now, I don't care that she slept with people. More power to her. Do what you like. And I would usually not mention this at all, but her attitude to sex is going to be important in context. She was known to talk about giving out sexual favors as a sort of all-purpose social lubricant and way of getting over basic problems. Just fuck or suck the people who gave you shit, and then they won't give you shit anymore. As a for instance, I'll read from Rolling Stone, who interviewed her back in, 1970 or 71, I think, that talks about this. And I'll link the whole interview below. In talking about different kinds of women and women power groups, I'm going to skip most of it. She says, as for the others, the ones learning karate, a high-powered rifle does the job best. You have to touch someone to use karate. If you're going to touch someone, you might as well make love to them, which is Germaine's all-purpose solution. If your landlady is hassling you, you ball her. Want better care from your doctor? Make it with him. At 5 o'clock, they're closing the mammal house. Germaine hasn't seen the wombat. She wants to. It's closing time, a zoo attendant shouts. Where's the wombat? Germaine asks blithely, pushing past. It's closed, lady, the attendant explodes, red in the face. It's closed. Get out. I bet he hasn't gotten his rocks off in months, Germaine says, turning to go back. What if I went down on him? Someone takes her arm and leads her gently away. Well, it was the 60s. Hippie, free love kind of era. She was raped at age 19, forced into the back of a car, and beaten by her rapist while he demanded she ask him to fuck her repeatedly. She says she can't remember if she did or didn't. It's the sort of thing that would mess a person up. She had one marriage when young, which was a disaster. She describes it as being constantly ordered around, made to apologize for every little thing, made to sleep on the floor when he was drunk. She says she went out and had affairs as a way of bolting. She was the editor of Suck magazine, posed nude, and wrote essays with titles like I Am a Whore, Lady Love Your Cunt, and Bounce Titty Bounce. She had photo shoots of explicit nudity, which she described as face, pubes, and anus. Nothing decorative about it, nothing sexy about it either. Confrontation was the name of the game. But that was only kind of true. Some of her poses were like that, but not all of them. Some were much more what one might see in an issue of Playboy. A self-described super groupie, she bragged about being the kind of groupie who didn't have to hang around in hotel lobbies but always got invited to the hotel rooms with the band. It seems to me at some point she wasn't completely horrible. I could be wrong, but in any case, she got to horrible. Greer is a TERF, a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. She's a particularly vulgar and dehumanizing one at that. Some TERFs may couch their rhetoric in platitudes about not hating trans people, just, I don't know, loving women or I don't know, some such thing. But that is not Greer. She'll talk about men cutting their dicks off. And if you listen to her rhetoric, you'll see soon enough that it's not just hateful, but it kind of makes no sense. Like, where is she coming from? Sometimes she seems to say that trans women are men who are willing to take one for the team in a pretty extreme way. That is, that they are willing to undergo surgical transformation to erase women, to phase them out somehow, and keep them out of the halls of power by usurping them. Or maybe not. Maybe is it that they desire female subjugation? It's a sex thing? Or maybe that they do think they are women, but only because women are to them a non-gender. Oh wait, no, it's just that it isn't fair for people who have lived as a man and enjoyed some degree of male privilege to then transition because reasons? Honestly, it's rather hard to make heads or tails of these many contradictory ideas, which seem more like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks than anything else. But then, prejudice is never about logic, and it sure as hell isn't about considering what the other is going through. An empathic person might say that, yes, a transgender woman might get some male privilege points prior to their transition, or prior to coming out, but at what cost? How much psychic pain, dysmorphia, and stigma from society might they have to deal with? And who the hell would want that? I'll take cis woman any day, regardless of its problems. Better to have to try to convince people of my worth as a woman than have to convince them that I am one. And in any case, what does fair have to do with anything? It's not fair you are a woman? What? And if you're wondering what she has to say about trans men, not a whole hell of a lot. She has also come out against things like abortion and contraception because they're male interventions in reproduction. But also, she considered IVF and only decided against it because she thought she was too old. So I guess that intervention is okay. She says speaking out against FGM, female genital mutilation, is an attack on cultural identity. And all these things make no sense in terms of her overall message of taking control of one's sexuality as a woman. Now let's talk about her book about how pretty boys are, shall we? Yay! Ugh. The Beautiful Boy featured a lot of pictures of teenage boys and was intended to advance women's reclamation of their capacity for and right to visual pleasure, which is creepy. Okay, let's not split hairs. It's freaking creepy. Also creepy was that she used the picture of actor Bjorn Anderson from when he was 15, and he didn't want her to. She cared nothing for exploiting his image, bringing up difficult memories that he had, or exploiting him for his looks, using him as an object of fetishistic visual pleasure against his consent. She didn't give a shit. This from a woman who said that nature had gotten revenge on Steve Irwin on the occasion of his death because he exploited nature in his documentaries. So, again, sometimes it's okay to exploit things and sometimes it's not, and it seems to depend on what's best for Greer. The book also has a quasi-defense of sex tourism, which is beyond any kind of pale in my... It's just no. Just fucking no. For fuck's sake, no. But look, let's face facts. This crap is all because she's a prejudiced asshole with a pronounced lack of empathy. She's just a smarter, better educated brand of shitlord. A reactionary troll with an academic pedigree. Has that come across yet? Has anyone, have I made that clear that this is a pattern? There is nothing here that I'm talking about that's not pretty well known. Public record stuff. A lot of it you could probably get off of Wikipedia. And yet, there are people who think we need to keep platforming her and naming her Australian of the Year and shit. And this leads me to the current uproar around her comments on rape. Look, she said awful things about rape, sexual assault, and the Me Too movement before. For instance, calling women victimized by Harvey Weinstein career rapees and whatnot. But let's talk about the specific things that she said. And these have been widely reported, but in no particular order, and different outlets have reported different things. So, from a recent speech that she gave. So, I'm just going to sort of read through different quotes that have been reported in different places. And then we'll talk about it. I want to turn the discourse about rape upside down. We are not getting anywhere approaching it down the tunnel of history. Centuries of writing and thinking about rape as inflicted by men on women have got us nowhere. Rape should be viewed as a lazy, careless, and insensitive act. Okay. Every time a man rolls over on his exhausted wife and insists on enjoying his conjugal rights, he is raping her. It will never end up in a court of law. Instead of thinking of rape as a spectacularly violent crime, and some rapes are, think about it as non-consensual. That is, bad sex. She says the penalty could be 200 hours of community service. If we're going to say, trust us, believe us, if we do say that our accusations should stand as evidence, then we have to reduce the tariff for rape. She also thinks, though, that the punishment could be an R tattooed on the rapist's hand, arm, or preferably cheek. Bad sex, where there is no communication, no tenderness, no mention of love. Most rapes don't involve any injury whatsoever. We are told that it's a sexually violent crime. An expert like Quentin Tarantino will tell us that when you use the word rape, you're talking about violence, a throwing them down. It's one of the most violent crimes in the world. Bullshit, Tarantino. Greer says the culture's ideas about rape make the experience more traumatic for women than it needs to be. Society wants women to believe that rape will destroy them. We haven't been destroyed. We've been bloody annoyed is what we've been. She cites a study that found that 70% of rape victims suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, compared with 20% of conflict veterans. What the hell are you saying? Something that leaves no sign, no injury, no nothing, is more damaging to a woman than seeing your best friend blown up by an IED is to a veteran. She also thinks that some rapes are violent, and in those cases, the perpetrator should be punished more harshly, but it should be about the violence. She thinks that instead of long trials and debates about what happened behind closed doors, the idea is reducing the punishment for rape, but make it easier for women to get their claims through. It is moments like these I could hear the feminists screaming at me, "You're trivializing rape." Well, I'll tell you what, you might want to believe that the penis is a lethal weapon and that all women live in fear of that lethal weapon. Well, that's bullshit. It's not true. We don't live in terror of the penis. A man can't kill you with his penis. And then she brought up her own personal experience again as a way of dissuading people from criticizing her and saying things like, well, the man that raped her said she should say fuck me a dozen times. I don't think I said it, but maybe I did. How would that look on my mobile phone in court saying fuck me? All right, so I think that's enough for us to tear apart. This is, again, not the only time she said inflammatory things about rape, but reading through these quotes, I find myself rather agreeing with one attendee to the talk who said it appears she's making shit up as she goes along, and that seems to be exactly what she's doing. Again, just like with her, quote, analysis of trans and non-binary people, which I think is utter bullshit. She's just saying it's just all nonsense, every bit of it. It's like, ah. All right, so for instance, you could say, oh, rape and sexual assault are still a problem, and we haven't fixed it yet, even though we've been trying to. Well, yeah, I mean, isn't that exactly like every other social problem we're dealing with? Like, do we just give up? Let's not talk about poverty anymore. Obviously, we've talked about it before and done things before, and there are still poor people, so let's never worry about it again. Let's not talk about racism anymore. Racism has been a problem. Apparently, we're just fucked. Like, that's not how these things work. Also, her absurdity that women aren't afraid of penises. Yeah, we never said we were. We're not afraid of the penis. We don't want to be violated against our consent. We don't want other people taking our bodily autonomy away from us. We don't want to be forced to do sexual things we don't want to do. We want to be able to say no. You know? That's what we want. That's what the woman in bed with a man wants. Is he going to roll over and demand his conjugal rights? Well, maybe that will end up in court, or maybe it won't. Maybe it's a matter of teaching people about the importance of consent. Maybe it's about getting rid of this idea that anybody has a conjugal right to anybody else's body. Maybe it's about tearing that page out of our society's book and not just giving up. You know, not that any of what she says makes sense. Our accusation will stand on evidence, whether or not we're talking about rape or mugging or any other crime. Testimonial evidence is evidence. You know, the barriers that we talk about aren't necessarily barriers to the legal process so much as the ways that this is being handled, the rape kits that are allowed to languish, the sexist notions that women just run around lying about rape and sexual assault all the time. That's what we have to tackle. That's what we have to attack. That's the bullshit that we have to get through. To call non-consensual sex bad sex, it's not fucking sex. It's rape. And let's not oh, fucking Greer. Fucking Greer. All right, never mind. I don't care if there's tenderness or if somebody says, "Oh, I love you," while they rape me. I care about the consent. That's what we're talking about. And you know, sometimes she's saying that women can just brush off rape like it's yesterday's bad news, like an episode of Bad Weather. But then she talks about court proceedings as if they are going to be so incredibly traumatic we can't expect women to go through them. This is nonsense. It makes no sense. Look, rape sucks. Nobody wants to be raped and beaten. If you had to choose between the two, you would not want to take the savage beating as well as the rape. But ideally, those aren't your choices. You know, the choices are just not to be raped or beaten, right? And that should that horrible thing happen to you, you should be able to go to the law enforcement and not have to deal with layers of sexism and denial that other people would not face. In similar he said, she said kinds of crimes like mugging, right? That's the whole point. Really, a lot of this is exactly the same kind of garbage argument that you get from rabid MRAs. You know, her bad sex is just bringing up Thunderfoot videos to me. It's all crap. It's not based in anything. She outright sees that the studies don't agree with her, that rape is in fact traumatic for people. Yeah, it's true that once upon a time, rape was considered more of a crime of property. That is to say, one man harmed or tainted another man's property, more so than it was considered a crime against the woman herself. And that sucks, and that has already, I think, changed a great deal in our culture, and needs to change more. We need to confront these ideas of rape victims being considered tainted or damaged goods. Right? So that's fine. And we can do that. And it's going to take a while. And it's not going to be easy. And there's going to be fighting. But and her acting like Quentin Tarantino is the one that's pushing this. Oh yeah, Quentin Tarantino. He's the world's leading rape expert. He's the one everybody goes to. Are you fucking kidding me? Just shut up, Greer. And I'm done. All right, I'm done. What I wanted to come out here and talk about is that I've seen a lot of people come out and say, well, we have to give Germaine the respect of an older woman who's been through a lot, who was an important feminist in her day. And, I've seen her going on talk shows and watch them and have the talk show host treat her like an adorable racist auntie or something. Isn't she cute? She's so cute when she says these crazy ass fucking things, isn't she? Isn't that adorable? Like, no. No, I'm going to give her the respect of telling her to fuck off. All right? Seriously, fuck off, Greer. Fuck off with your controversy courting bullshit. Fuck off with your bad ideas. Fuck off with your hatred for trans people and non-binary people. Fuck off. Just fuck off. That's all. You are out of touch, out of step, full of hate, a reactionary. Fuck off. That's the respect you get. Me telling you straight, woman to woman, that you're a fucking garbage human and you need to fuck off. That's what you get from me. Anyway. Ugh. So deep breath. Whew. I always wonder how to end these really nasty ass miserable ones. Like, it feels weird to be like, oh, and hey, now let's say thank you to my patrons, even though of course I want to say thank you to all my patrons and I want to tell you to like and comment and subscribe, but it feels like the tone thing there is so weird to me. I don't know. Does anybody have an idea of how that works better? Anyway, I do want to hear, I especially want to hear what trans people have to say. I want to hear what everybody has to say about these issues. So please do comment. I'm looking forward to your commentary. I want to know. And thank you to the people who support me. Sometimes these are really hard to do. And I don't get monetized, and it's getting really tough. So it would be great if you would consider supporting me on Patreon, if you can. If you can't, then a simple like and maybe tag in that bell thing, that's good too. I'd like to thank my patrons Mike Yoakum, Faustin Talacha, Jordy, Brad Savvy, Daniel Jones, Kevin Thurber, Some Random Geek, Nikki Paprika, Andre Rodriguez, Joetta Carvalho, Nick Hayden, Jesse Wynn, Bruce Bartup, Joe Taylor, and Marie Deanne. Thank you very much to everybody. I love you all. Bye!